People, they don't, I don't know if they're just not inquisitive or what, but most people, see my Spicoli character I play on these YouTube streams, and I don't know what they assume my background was. Like, well, Grace Thorpe knows, but Ruby, I mean, Ruby, this one's for you. I'm gonna get on your next Celebrity Sunday. I'm gonna show you what a real celebrity is me. I'm gonna show you some of the videos I've done. Basically, Ruby, my history is, God, quite vast. I've led like multiple lives. Let's work backwards chronologically. Obviously, I'm semi-retired now, but now I work. Last 4 or 5 years, I've worked part-time in the cannabis industry, growing, working for a couple of growers. I worked for Jeter's, which makes pre-rolls. I've worked for 2 growers. All this is mostly part-time. And then recently I worked for a company that manufactures THC drinks. So I've been doing that off and on for 5 years. Obviously, I've been on Social Security the last 5 years too. Now, but going back to 2009, this is for Ruby because she needs to be educated on who I am. Because I'm thinking of Ruby should come out to California next summer, and for a month, she and I rent an RV, and we go around California with my 2 cats, and we should live stream. And if she wants to fuck me, that's cool. But Ruby, think about it, And now, why me? Because you're not going to find a better camera operator or film editor than me. I can edit the vids. And Ruby, I'm impressed by your editing. Ruby's actually a pretty good editor. But compared to me, I'm a professional. Like, I started... Wait. I'm 67. I started making short films at the age of 8 with an 8mm Bell & Howell camera. I remember. I mean, I was editing Super 8 movies when I was like 14, 15, 13. So I have 50 years experience editing. Super 8mm, 8mm, 16mm video. How do I rate my camera operating? My lighting ability, my editing. My work speaks for itself. You know what's funny? In this business, you don't even see, it's weird, like in the scientific community or most of these other communities, you've got to write papers and come up with theories and stuff. And, it's like everybody's got like a big ego, like who's better than whom and whose theory holds more water than this or that, or this guy's a doctor. But how do we know how good he is, or how do we know how good this lawyer is unless he wins cases? You know what I like about filmmaking? Or video, yeah, filmmaking. I call it filmmaking, movie making, or shooting videos. It's like, it's right there for everybody to see. It's like just, there it is. And if it's kick-ass and blow away like the kind of shit I do, it's just, I don't need to say anything about it. It's almost like, I guess the best way is it speaks for itself. That's a beautiful thing. Like these academic professors, these doctors in academia have to write papers and peer review this and all that shit. And they've got egos and all this shit. When with filmmaking, it's just, here it is. I spent X amount of time making it. And it's for everybody to see. And I don't even have to say anything about it. In other words, talk is cheap. With filmmaking, it's just the actions. belie any. It's just, if you make something super kick-ass like I do, it's like, that's it. There's nothing to say about it. It's like, I know how great it is. You know how great it is. It's like, first of all, I'm not going to put it out unless it's great. Because see, when you're an artist like me at my level, you know what's good and what's not good. You just know. You can tell. Why? Because from experience, confidence is building upon greatness. Am I confident? Yes. Am I overconfident? No. Overconfident means you're not really confident. You have to be overconfident. So I'll put my vids up against anybody in EDM, and you'll see. Plus, I'm an award-winning short filmmaker. Most of these other dudes aren't. They're just European art students. So that's what I did. Then prior to that, I spent 18 years to 20 years in the legal field as a legal analyst, or paralegal, if you want to call it that. You know, I mean, technically, I guess I would be a paralegal, even though I didn't really function as a paralegal. I was more a legal analyst, database expert. But it's, you know, I do have a paralegal certificate from UC Irvine. So I do have that certificate, which, you know, I got like a 3.5 GPA out of it. I got pretty good grades. I don't think I ever got below a B. So I do have that certificate. And you got to take like 10 classes for that. I mostly got that because I was already like a paralegal for 3 years, and then I started being a paralegal in 90 or something, and then what happened was about 93, some of the insurance companies wanted you to have a certificate or a bachelor's degree, and actually some law firms wouldn't hire you unless you had a certificate or a bachelor's degree. At the time, I didn't have a bachelor's degree or a certificate, but I had great work experience. I worked on some of the biggest banking savings and loan cases. My first big case was the Charles Keating Lincoln savings and loan case. Just Google Charles Keating. It's that simple. Look up Lincoln savings and loan. You know, I created the database basically at the document depository that we represent the plaintiffs. We were suing not just Keating, because he had his money's fucking buried somewhere, or who knows where his money was. But we were suing Jones, Day, Reeves, and Pogue, his attorneys, and they settled for $45 million. We were suing Arthur Anderson, Arthur Young. That case is there used to be the big 8 accounting firms. Now they're the big 4 or 5. You could thank me for that, because basically we sued the shit out of these people. And Arthur Anderson, Arthur Young, they all had to fucking either go out of business or merge. Ernst & Young, Arthur Anderson, Arthur Young. Those were the big 8 accounting firms back in the early 90s. Now they're not even around anymore. They've merged. You can thank me for that. Then I went on to work for the RTC, FDIC, Resolution Trust Corporation, which was formed after the savings and loan debacle, and was in existence about 5 years as an agency to basically get rid of all the shit that the savings and loan. They're basically there to sell off all the assets, the poor performing assets of the savings and loans that the government had to take over. Then I went on and I ended up working for the RTC and the feds for a law firm. I won't say the name. And we were suing Imperial Savings and Loan, former officers and directors of Imperial Savings and Loan, Great American Bank. We were suing them. I remember I went into a warehouse in, is it Kearney Mesa? It's kind of like inland from Miramar. You know where the movie, what was it? Top Gun, is that it? Yeah, that was filmed at Miramar Air Station, which is in Miramar, California. This was off the 163 freeway. Miramar is between the 163 and the 5 freeway. Basically, I think it's called Kearney Mesa. It's basically on the eastern side of Miramar Air Station. In fact, that's where the Imperial Savings Warehouse was. And it's basically, the jets would fly over and literally you could see them landing at the runway across the freeway there. We were on the eastern side of the 163, and then once you go over the freeway, there was the fucking landing strip. We were right there. There were 33,000 bankers boxes, which everybody knows what a banker's box is. Google it. So there were 33,000. We had to narrow it down to 2,000 or 1,000 that we were going to use. So we would go down there, me, and it was cool. It was me and 2 or 3 female associates I was working with. And check this out. So we would stay at the Marriott Hotel. It was a great fucking, this was like in mid-90s, right? Check this fucking shit out, man. I was making, when you add up the mileage, if I drove down there and back, keep in mind, I was getting paid as soon as I left my house until I came back. So travel time alone was 4 fucking hours, folks. And I'd stay down there for like 8 hours. So you're talking a 12, 14 hour day with like time and a half. I think back then I was making 25 an hour or something with time and a half and shit. And gas money too. They were paying me like 50 cents a mile or something. And don't forget, gas back then was cheap. It was like $2 a gallon or something. I remember literally, I would go there and drive. The days I went down there and drove back, which was about once a week, when you added up my gas money and my fucking overtime and shit, keep in mind, this was like 92 to 94, 3, 4. I was making like $400 or $500 a fucking day, folks. Figured out 25 an hour. That's $200 right there, and then another 4 hours of that is time and a half. So wait, that's 200. Time and a half was almost $40. That's another 150. So let's say I was making $350, and then you add on the 50 cents a mile, whatever, 350. Probably I was making another $50 off the gas. Literally, I was making about $400, folks, in one day. $400 I would make. Once a week I would drive down there and back and get $400. And a third of it was just driving time. It was the best gig in the fucking world, folks. I did this for like a year. And then, and the times that like I needed to stay down there longer for like 2 or 3 days or some shit like that. So we would stay, they'd put us up at the fucking Marriott La Jolla, or the Hyatt, one of those, the one right off the freeway near the Mormon church. We were stuck up at the fucking Hyatt Hotel, me and these 2 chicks, and like they'd go to dinner, and sometimes I'd eat with them, but we had $100 per diem to spend each day on food, okay? Check this out, we had $100 to spend, okay? This is the joke. We had $100 fucking bucks. So I'd order room service. First of all, I don't eat breakfast. My lunch, I'll have to tell you that story. You know, I'd go to a strip club for lunch and pay $5 for a burger, and they let me go in there and lick a pussy for free. But here's the real thing. Since I had the $100, I would sit there and order, like, I remember sit there and I'd order steak and lobster and shit. Like, since I didn't really spend a lot, I spent like only $10 for lunch, but for dinner, I'd whack up like I had $100 to spend, and I'm in the Hyatt there, whatever. I was ordering steak and lobster. I was stoned out of my head, and they'd wheel in a cart with fucking steak and lobster every night. So that's what I'd get when I'd do that. So either way, it was win-win for me. I think that I was making about $90,000 a year in the mid-90s. It was money.